Hello and good evening. Welcome everyone to the Business of Property. Happy Easter for those who are celebrating over the weekend. I'm your host, Cheryl Leong from Property Development Australia. I begin by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet and pay my respects to elders past and present. And I extend that respect to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people here today. At the Business of Property, we interview superstar guests in the property development space that share their expertise, their deals, and their stories to help empower, build, and grow our community of property developers. So, hello to Facebook land, LinkedIn, YouTube, and anyone watching the replay. Give me a shout out if you're here with us today in the comments section. And please feel free to interact as it's a live session and it's great to get your questions. Our topic today is one that has been particularly prevalent in recent months with large developers going, well, not developers, builders going bust, right? And our guest tonight, Krish Ravipati, has been a bean counter for more than 15 years, has been serving the Queensland construction industry for the past 7 years. And our topic today is about builder project trust accounts and why, particularly as developers, we need to be aware of why we need to know about this and how we can play our role in ensuring that not only our projects are safe from collapse, but that we are doing some level of due diligence with our builders. But without further ado, I'm going to invite Krish to the Business of Property dance floor. Krish, come on down.
Hi, Cheryl. Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Thanks for having
Hello.
me.
Great to have you here. So, Krish, you are a business partner of Peak Advisory, Peak Value Advisory, and that's an accounting firm. But tell us a little bit around your involvement with the construction industry during your professional lifetime.
Yeah, so thanks, Cheryl. That's right, actually. I've been a bean counter for 15 years, but with the construction industry, I've been involved from 2015,
Mhm.
particularly in Queensland. I live in Queensland. I live in Gold Coast. I don't want to go anywhere else. Fantastic part of the world here.
Beautiful,
But
yes.
yeah, sorry for making jealous all the Sydney and Melbourne people. Look, I've been very fortunate to be involved in the implementation of this software or to the construction industry. So I got to go to small companies, 5 million turnover companies, to companies like 𝐁𝐮𝐢𝐬𝐿, who turn over $1 billion. So
Mm.
I get to go to see the range of construction businesses across different turnovers, all the ranges. And my job was to implement the software, as well as me being a bean counter, also implement the best practices in the accounting and finance sector. So,
Excellent.
yep, I've been involved since 2015. So I've done probably
Excellent.
150 companies. Yeah.
So, I mean, today we're talking about builders trust, project trust accounts. And I know you've put a bit of a presentation together for us, and I don't want to steal your thunder, but in essence, for those of you who have attention spans like goldfish, like I do, just in brief, what is a builder's project trust account?
Cheryl, as you exactly started the sentence, as a lot of head contractors, as we call the builders, are going bust. So one of the trickle down effect with this one is the subcontractors who are actually performing the work are not getting paid.
Mm.
So there are two aspects to it. One is for the work they're not getting paid, and also this retentions money which the builders are holding, and that's been gone as well. So
Mm.
these subcontractors, when they turn to administrators, the administrator says, "No, it's all our money now. You'll get a 1 cent in a dollar or 2 cents in a dollar." So what the government came into picture and said, can't do that anymore. So we're going to put some legislation in place which will protect the subcontractors, you know, basically the retention money, and also the progression or the progress claims which they submit to the head contractors.
Yeah, right. And when has this come in, what is this regulation? I guess this is what we'll go into. and the importance of it. So again, I don't want to steal your thunder. So I think it's important for people to understand that this is really more so a safeguard to ensure that like the little subcontractors, all the tradies and all of that are not adversely affected. Because what happens if the builder goes bust and it's your project, like it affects obviously your project.
That's right. That's exactly right. When builders goes bust, everyone don't get their payment. The project gets stopped. Someone else has to come in, take over, like probably the famous cases in our Queensland, ProBuild and ConDev. Someone else had to step in and finish the project. So I guess as a developer, one of the things you got to ensure, or the community got to ensure, is making sure the builders are all, they've got everything, their ducks in a row, I guess. They're all lined up.
Yeah, absolutely.
All appropriate.
So what we're going to be covering today is more so around, the property developer and the level of due diligence that you need to do to get, some confidence around the fact that your builder has the right regulatory controls in place in terms of trust accounts, and
Yes.
and why you need to ask and why you need to know about it as well.
So, yeah, that's right. I mean, exactly right. Because as a developer, if we don't ensure, like, because it's a very new piece of legislation, it has come into effect from 1st of March 2021, but that was only for the government contracts. Whereas in the future, which I'll show you in the presentation, is the April 2023 is the real date everybody needs to remember, because that's where the private people will come into effect, and also the contract value will be from $3 million or more. So far it's like $10 million or more. So people who've got all the accountants in place, they've got this legislation covered, sort of. They're doing okay. They've been audited by QBCC, so they're kind of okay. However, when we start talking about these 3 million projects, we are talking about the small business owners, where you might have one accountant or a bookkeeper who walks in once a month and does the books and walks off. This is very important for them. So they're not immune just because they're small business owners or 3 million construction owners. It will affect them. And that's why my job as an advisor is to make sure those construction builders are compliant, and we as the developers making sure that we're giving these contracts to those builders who are compliant.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Well, I think we need to dive into it. Those of you that are listening, whether it's today or the replay, please pop in your comments and your questions below. Krish will be the best person to respond to them, because I'm as much learning today as everyone else. And just really quickly before we start, Krish, is this across all the different states as well?
No. So what I'm covering today is especially only for Queensland.
Okay.
The other states have already got this in place, like New South Wales and Western Australia. So I will touch base on them, but I'm not going to go dive deep into the New South Wales and Western Australian legislation. This is purely concentrating on Queensland legislation.
Okay, fantastic. All right, let's get rolling. Over to you.
All right, I'll share my screen. Share screens. All right, and let me know if you can see my screen.
Yeah, awesome.
Okay, cool. Let me make some adjustments here. So, yeah, okay. All right, and maybe a request to everyone who's watching as well, Cheryl, to all the community. If you got any questions, please put in the comment section, and Cheryl might address those questions to me at the end. Or whenever, Cheryl, feel free to stop me or ask me, no problem.
I shall read out any questions that pop up.
Awesome. All right, so I've got two screens. So I'm looking at this screen and I'll be talking here. All right, as it says, it's critical compliance changes in Queensland building and the construction industry. that you can no longer ignore.
Mhm.
Now, again, so so that's me again. Too many Krishes around, but just to give a background of who I am, I've been a CPA for 11 years. I've been in the construction industry for 7 years, and I have implemented construction software for considerable number of clients, and I've trained around 550 users. I have serviced 25 million to 1 billion turnover companies. I think we've covered that before. And I was very fortunate to be involved with the government, Queensland Building Construction Commission, QBCC, when this framework was being legislated.
So you live pretty much living and breathing it at that time.
That's right. That's right. We were heavily involved because from the software side of it, they were asking us questions. Hey, do you think software in general, is it possible? So we kind of said, because I've used software for 20 years, I said, nah, it doesn't matter. Our software, no software does it. So they had to go and modify some legislations. They were very helpful, to be honest. Actually, they were very good. They were considerate of our suggestions. Right. The question is, why do you need to act now? Right. QBCC legislation has always been in place, but what's the importance now? Now, I've gone through this legislation, as Cheryl said, I've lived and breathed in that legislation. There are some serious penalties do apply if you don't follow the legislation, and imprisonment to the directors in certain circumstances. Now, as everybody would appreciate, if a director of a building company is sent to jail or imprisonment or any disqualifications, that person will be disqualified as a director, and there are other consequences. So they might lose QBCC license, they might never able to build. So we as a developers, our project will come into a standstill. So that's where our due diligence will come into place, and it's very important to act now. Mm-hmm. Just a bit of overview, guys, what I'm going to cover at a very high level. First of all, I'll talk about the rollout of this legislation and the contract value. Second, I'll talk about the need of multiple bank accounts, PTA and RTA. Now, PTA stands for Project Trust Account. RTA stands for Retention Trust Account. So there are bank accounts, there are physical bank accounts like your transaction account. So the name, you should have those words in it, trust account. So we'll be talking about these two accounts in particular. Approved financial institutions, we will talk about which are the banks which are approved. Not all banks in Australia are allowed you to open these bank accounts. There are only a few, which I'll show you what they are. Communication to the subcontractors, so we'll talk about 3 levels here. The first one is the client, which is ourselves, I would say developers. The middle one is the head contractors, and the bottom one are the subcontractors. Now, this legislation is to the head contractors. So that's why, once again, as a developers, as a client, it's our responsibility in our best interest to ensure the guy who's actually managing it, head contractor, is compliant. Now, head contractor also has got some obligations in the communication level to the subcontractors, which I'll cover. Increased workload to the accounts team. One thing which you will hear, probably a bit of complaint from your builders, is there's too much work for their accounts team. Obviously, what that means, it may increase the price for us. Someone has to cope with it, so we need to be aware of it, which I'll cover. Next one, certification to manage the trust accounts. So not anyone, any bookkeeper, any accountant just can join the organization and start looking at it. You need to be certified. You need to have a certificate issued by QBCC. There are some tests. There are one test you need to take, which I'll cover, and I'll show you a sample how it looks. Software compliance. There are a few things in software which you can't do anymore. So if you're just using off-the-shelf products like MYOB, Xero, QuickBooks, there are certain things you can't do, or you might have to change a few things in the software setup. So you might have to start looking at some construction industry specified software. So at a very high level, I will cover those points as well.
Mm.
And the last one which I have is audit of the trust accounts. So once again, not many small builders get their accounts audited. They do get done by a CPA or a CA, but they don't get audited. However, there are some legislations which will need you to audit every account.
Yeah.
So those are the 8 points I thought I'll cover. Sorry, was there a question?
Yeah. So when did this legislation commence?
So this legislation came on 1st of March 2021. So that was only for the government project. So it was a phased rollout, what they
Right,
called. So there
okay.
was phase 1, 2, 3. So for the private entities, it's already in place, but for the contracts over $10 million.
Okay.
So predominantly, and each project needs to be over 10 million. It's not the turnover in general.
Okay.
So,
Right.
if
Okay.
you're building a big shopping center or a small shopping center, then usually they have few teams in place: accounts team, legal team, lawyers team. So they
So
were
you
kind
generally
of
the mid-sized and above builders, really.
correct. Like I'll show you the next screen here. What do you call this slide? Slide here, right? So the reason why this is important now is from 1st of April 2023, the private entities will come into picture as well. So it's not only the government contracts, even the private contracts, more than $3 million. So for example, any McDonald's, any Starbucks, any Hungry Jack's, any like everyday contracts you see at the commercial sector, they all come into picture. From 1st of October 2023, private entities with $1 million or more will come into picture.
Goodness.
Now,
Yeah.
one very important thing I will have to address here is this changed only last week or probably 2 weeks ago. Previously, if you're familiar with QBCC, project trust account legislation, it used to be 1st of July 2022. So because of the elections, they pushed it by 9 months.
Okay.
So that's why it's a little bit of relaxed scenario.
There's a bit of grace. There's a bit of grace there to get up to
Correct.
speed with all of that. Yeah.
Absolutely correct. Like previously, it was very rushy. Like people had to do it now. But at least we got a little bit of breathing time now.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
So that's the rollout and the contract value. So the next one, what we will talk about is the multiple bank accounts. Now, for example, I'll give you an example, right? And see how complicated it becomes very quickly. For example, you're doing, say, 3 projects, more than $3 million. What you need to have is you need to have one normal bank account, which is your everyday bank account. And you need to have 1, 2, 3 project trust accounts. And you need to have an additional retention trust account. So you're talking about 5 bank accounts you got to manage. Right? That's why you need to have an everyday bank account and 3 project trust accounts and 1 retention trust account. And as soon as the project is finished, you got to close them and open new bank accounts as soon as the new projects come into place.
Yes.
So it becomes so complex for the accounts team.
And administrative, if there is an accounts team to begin with.
Correct. So even if there is no accounts team, the bookkeeper has to manage these things.
Yes.
And so that's what you see. Project trust account, you must have 1 project trust account open for each project, more than $3 million.
I mean, and this does make sense because, administratively and accounting wise, it can be a dog's breakfast if for whatever reason an expense gets tagged incorrectly or whatever that might be, or you're just not on top of your accounts, right?
Absolutely right.
And for a lot of these smaller size builders, I mean, the focus really is, we just need to get projects done and dusted and money in the door. However, if you have no idea where your project is at, then things can go pear-shaped very easily.
Absolutely right. Because as we all know, builders are very good at their trade. They put their hard hat on, go and build the buildings, but managing, they just want someone else to manage it.
Yeah, absolutely.
We got to ensure that the bookkeeper is doing the right thing, or the
Yeah.
accountant is doing the right thing.
And
Now,
how easy, sorry to interrupt. How easy, difficult is it to actually get these trust accounts set up?
yeah, so once again, not every bank account at the moment. So today is 19th of April. I prepared these slides probably last week. So as per last week, it's only 6 bank accounts in Australia
6
at the
banks.
moment,
Yeah. Okay.
which allow you to open the trust accounts.
Right.
So if you bank with someone else other than these 6 bank accounts, and you've got a relationship going with the other bank account, you will have to start dealing with these 6 from now to build up the relationship.
Yeah. Yeah. I can imagine all these builders going, "Oh my goodness."
Absolutely, yes,
Yeah.
and that's why we said, "Hey guys, get your ducks in a row."
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
now
You
it's
got to start early. Well, I guess the fact that they've got a bit of a they've got a year, one that's a year and one that's a year and a half from now to really start that process going.
correct. In a way, it's a blessing in disguise, because saying that, yep, good. Look, okay, let's start thinking. I mean, look, most of the builders are good people. They want to do the right thing. It's just the administrative process that they need to be aware of.
Okay. And so who does a check on that? Who does it? Is there some sort of a check to ensure that this trust account is there at the start of every project? Or is
Look,
that
that's
just part of the
something.
auditing? Is that part of the auditing at the end of the
Yeah,
financial year?
so part of the auditing is ensuring that the transactions have gone in correctly. However, is a checklist which I guess the directors or finance team needs to come up with, saying that,
They
hey,
have
have
to
I
make
done
sure,
this? Have
yeah.
I done this?
Yeah.
Or talk to someone like us or their own accountants. Just develop an Excel checklist.
Yeah.
Because as you can see, there's a lot of compliance they need to do. Like I'm
Yeah.
only covering 8 of them, but there are 15 or 16 of them which I haven't put in the slides.
And all they want to do is just build. They just want to build. But you have
They
to.
want to
Sorry.
build, you see.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry, go back here. And also another thing is now you use a very good word. It becomes a dog's breakfast. Now retention trust account, if you don't manage it correctly, it does becomes a dog's breakfast, because what the legislation says at the moment is, even if you have 3 different projects, you're holding cash retentions on these 3 different projects, they all can come into one retention trust account. So if you got a tiler, a roofer, Sparky, Chippy, and you're holding retentions on them, they all can come into this one retentions for each project. So you got to really manage this retention trust account very carefully, because over the period of 12 months time, the new projects will be coming in. And after 12 months, you need to release the retentions as well. So you got this one bank account, money is continuously coming in and money is continuously going out, and someone needs to really manage it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now there's a slight change in it. Like previously, what government said is you need to have one project trust account and one retention trust account for each project. Now they had a feedback saying that it's too much. If I have 3 projects, I'm not doing 6 bank accounts and one everyday bank account. I'm not doing it. So the government said, okay, just manage everything in one retention trust account. So if you want to do separately, you can, but the government is not legislating or forcing you to do.
Okay.
But if you do have one retention trust account, as an accountant, as someone who has reconciled 30 bank accounts for a living every day, it becomes really nightmare if you don't manage it correctly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So the next one, approved financial institution. We have the Big Four, and we have Macquarie Bank and HSBC. So other than this, as on today, not many other bank accounts you can open a trust account. So as we were talking before, Cheryl, if you have a bank account with Suncorp, for example, like as on today, they don't have trust account facility. So you might have to start relationship with other bank or deal with Suncorp saying that, hey, are you catching up? Because the next year I will be needing, so someone doing 10 projects a year, you're talking about 10 bank accounts every single year, because you need to keep on opening, closing, opening, closing, opening, closing. You see? So something you need to be aware of and be the front foot. All right. We talked about communications to subcontractors as well. So when opening a project trust account and retention trust account, all these subcontractors need to be notified. So what the builder's common mentality is, well, my bank account, why should I tell all these subcontractors? They just come and do the work and go. But whereas you as a builder, they have a responsibility to inform the PSP and the account numbers and all those things as the legislation. They need to tell every subcontractor.
Okay.
Right?
That they have one, or they actually have to give the account details as well?
They have to give the account details, like BSP and account numbers.
Okay.
So the subcontractors don't get access to it, or
of course.
but just as an information saying that, yes, we've opened a project trust account. That is where you will be getting the monies from. All right. And it can't be on a telephone.
This contract not paying
money in it. Yeah, it has to be on a writing.
Yeah.
It has to be an email. Just also, I'll cover these things, like as a builder, as a developer, us being developers. Now, I'll give you a very interesting example. Say we hired a builder to build 3 projects for us, and that builder is using the same tiler for all the 3 projects, for example. We, as a client, we need to pay into 3 different bank accounts because they're 3 different projects. And the head contractor will pay from these different bank accounts to the same guy. So there is a lot of work for us as well as developers. You see, it's not simple, one bank account, just pay everything into one bank account, they'll sort it out. You can't do that anymore.
Yeah, okay. So it needs to be, even though you've got one tiler, technically they can put it under one invoice. I mean, it's more helpful if they've got 3 different invoices.
No, they can't put into one invoice. They're 3 different projects. Okay. They'll have to give 3 invoices.
Yeah.
Because they're 3 different projects. And these people will put into 3 different projects, pay from 3 different bank accounts.
Yes.
And they will give us 3 different progress claims, and we pay into 3 different bank accounts.
Yes.
So from the accounting side, also what we need to understand is, even though one guy is building us, we can't have just one card in our 𝐊𝐫𝐢𝐬𝐡 file. It has to be multiple, because in accounting world, one card is associated with one bank account only, because that changes. So there's a lot of administrative work from our side as well. You see, and also some remittance advice. There are some requirements that when someone holds a cash retention, it should show on the statement. Like at the moment, not many softwares do that, but that's one of the requirements. And also the remittance advice must be sent within 5 days. This is very important, because you often see bookkeepers coming once a month or twice a month to do the books. So if you pay on 15th, they come on 1st of the following month, you're actually breaching the legislation without you knowing it, or without the head contractor knowing it. So it must be sent within 5 business days.
Yeah. And did you say, like, does the bookkeeper have to be certified, or is that?
Correct. They have to be certified. Absolutely. I'll show you where or how you can do the certifications. And here, because there is money involved and going out involved, there are some jailable offenses,
Yeah, right.
imprisonment for 1 year or 2 years in some scenarios. And the legislation has become very strict, saying that directors, you got to ensure that you're doing the right thing. Right? And we talk about workload to the accounts team. As we discussed, probably we were touching base on it. If you got 10 project bank accounts, you can appreciate they've got to be 12 bank accounts. So it's not just one bank account anymore. You need more bumps on seats, I guess, just to do the reconciliations. Every new project over a limit needs a new bank account, as we discussed before. Retentions cannot be held anywhere other than the trust account. So you can't open just a term deposit account and say, I'm going to put all the retentions in there and just invest it somewhere else. You can't do that. It has to be in the retention trust account. Again, we covered that. Even if the same subby is used for 10 projects, you need to pay 10 payment runs from 10 trust accounts. Right? So that's why the accounts team workload will be increased for the builders. Now, certification, like we said, I did the certification. It's called mandatory retention trust account. Anyone who's touching these accounts must be certified by QBCC. I think at the moment they are conducting once a week or twice a week. So you go and do that course. It took probably 1 hour maximum, and you do the course and you get a certification. Something like that. There are examples. They'll ask you these questions, and it's a multiple choice questions. So it'll give you a scenario. This is the scenario. What do you do? Do you need to open a trust account? What do you do? So you make a decision, and then you do the course. The directors must complete the certification provided by QBCC. And directors, obviously, usually they are the people who build the buildings. They are not the ones who's doing the bank accounts. They will need to nominate a person within their organization, and that nominee must also complete this certification. This includes the contract bookkeepers and external bookkeepers. So once again, as a director, they got to ensure that whoever coming into the organization has done this certificate. So we as builders probably has got a due diligence to talk about it, saying that, hey builder, are you aware of these things? Do you have bookkeepers who are certified? Not our responsibility, but kind of good checklist for us, I guess. If the employee resigns, the director must ensure that the new employee is certified before touching the trust accounts.
Yeah, right.
All right. Software compliance, very, very important thing is we all know if we did any mistake, we'll just simply delete the transaction. You can't delete the transaction anymore. Even if you delete it, it should have an audit trail. So ensure this is a big, big, big thing. Like ensure your software is set up to have the audit trail all ticked and everything, so it starts building up. If you go and delete it, the QBCC auditor may say, nah, not compliant, mate. Can't use this software anymore. Or my suggestion is just go into the market and just look for some construction industry specified software. Now that you got this 1 year lead time, now is the time to do the implementation, because any implementation will take 6 to 9 months, any small software implementation. So now is the time to go out in the market and look for it. Ability to create multiple ABA files from multiple bank accounts. Now, me coming from software background, I know some of this software will only allow you to make payments from one bank account, and that's it. As you can see, you can't do that anymore, because you need to be able to pay from project trust accounts and retention trust accounts and la-di-da-di-da. You've got 12 different bank accounts to pay from.
Yes.
You should be able to transfer funds from project trust account and retention trust account automatically. So you can't walk into a bank and deposit the money into these trust accounts or withdraw the money. Not allowed. everything has to be done electronically.
Yeah.
Once again, remittance advice should show the amounts transferred or held in the retention trust accounts. Let's talk about audit of the trust accounts. So every trust account must be audited, no matter how small the builder is. So quite commonly, we will hear this saying that never got audited, mate. But can't. So audit doesn't mean the entire audit of the entire financial systems. It's just the audit of these trust accounts. Right? Not by your internal auditor. So I just put this point anyways, because some companies, big enough companies, they have their internal auditors in place. Now, this trust account audit cannot be done by them. It has to be done independently, separate, outside people. Qualified auditor, obviously. You will need to submit this information to auditor on time. So what also government said, QBCC said, is it has given some limit of the time to auditor to finish this audit, like by 40 days or something, 40 or 45 days. So when the auditor asks you information, you need to provide it immediately. Like you can't say, I'm building it, I got busy. So again, the onus is on head contractor.
Yeah, it's to make sure that it's up to date.
It's up to date, yeah, up to date, and they're provided with the information, they're submitted the information on time.
So when you say within 40 days, that's completion of the audit within 40 days?
Now, completion of the review date. So there are some rules on the review date. One of the common thing is finishing of the project. So practical completion could be a review date. I will double check on, there are a lot of definition of the review date. So, you know, you start a project today and you finish the project in 6 months' time. That practical completion date is a review date, and it has to be done by 40 days.
Oh, so it's an audit of each of the trust accounts.
Absolutely. Each of the project trust account and retention trust account.
When it's completed, basically.
When it's completed, yeah.
Yeah, right. Okay.
So, yeah.
No pressure.
Yeah, no pressure, no pressure. And just on this slide, maybe I suggest all the builders, all us developers, just to review it, just for understanding. However, if you got any builders listening to this, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, wherever, whenever, I highly suggest go and please read the legislation, the project trust account legislation. It's quite detailed.
And if in doubt, obviously, speak to someone like Krish who understands that side of things. And then really important that you have an accountant who understands how construction works and how builders need to operate.
Correct. Absolutely correct. There you go. There you go. I think we said, how can I help you? So I am writing a book on this topic, project trust accounts.
Fantastic.
10 important compliance issues you no longer can ignore. I've only covered 8 here. I'm going to put 10 there, and I'm going to put penalties, imprisonment, dates, and years, and how you just got to ensure that you're doing the right thing. All right. Which is a few more points what we discussed. Again, I'm also putting some practical examples from the construction industry, where I go and talk to the clients and what's their feedback. And once they got their books audited, what's the feedback they got from QBCC? Like, as I said, they're all good people. They want to do the right thing. But where did they not do the right thing just because of lack of ignorance? Those things.
And so how do people get, oh, right, there you go, the answer. Type in your email address and your postal address in the chat. So maybe send that as a direct message to Krish. You are on Facebook as well, or email you at krish@peakvalue.
Yeah, peakvalue.com.au. Oh, thank you, Cheryl. That's it. Yeah. That's our website, or just as Krish, just my first name, krish@peakvalue.com.au. Absolutely. Send us an email. Someone from our office can contact you and send you a book. This is and also we request your maybe a physical address. We will post the book because it's not an ebook. It's an actual book.
We
touch and
have to
feel and
actually
read
read a physical book. Oh my goodness.
it. Happy weekend. And you can say, that guy gave me this book. Krish!
Fantastic. We all need that on our bookshelves.
That's it. Yes, thank you. And look, and also, if you need any free initial consultation on project trust accounts or construction management questions in general, Cheryl said I've been in this business for 7 years. There are unique way we need to understand the financials in construction industry. You've got this work in progress and forecasting and all those things, which are particularly useful and related, and only construction accountants understand. So feel free to email us.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. In the chat box yet?
And the chat box,
Anyone wants to speak to Krish about this, particularly if you are a builder? So from a developer point of view, in terms of our due diligence, right, that we want to make sure that our builders are doing the right thing, which, we know that they're getting audited and things like that. But what are the questions that we as developers can ask builders when we start projects, just to give us that sense of assurance that the builder's doing the right thing?
Yeah, so the first thing is, if your contract is more than $3 million, or in 1.5 years' time, more than $1 million, the first thing you need to ask is, have you got your project trust account set up for any other project so far? Or am I the first one? And if they said that you are the first one, you say, okay, go and talk to a construction advisor or your accountant. Make sure you know the process correctly, because the legislation is very strict that you need to open within 20 days of the signing of the project. And also, it's very interesting when I talk about $1 million. Say you get them to build a small commercial property for $900,000, and you expect that there's a variation of 150,000, so which will push that to the $1 million. Now that will become a project trust account contract.
Yeah, right.
So at that level, you can advise your builders, hey mate, just go and open a trust account, right? So just be prepared upfront from the beginning.
Because what is the impact? What is the impact, Krish, if so, for example, an auditor picks up something, and there's some concerns there, like how would that potentially impact not only the builder but the developer as well?
Yeah, because QBCC has been very good in understanding, saying that it's a new piece of legislation. However, if they continuously see that, look, director is reluctant to change and they don't want to do the right thing, some of the things, as we discussed, is jailable. So they can say, hey, 1 year imprisonment. As soon as it does that, even from the Corporations Act view, the director will just become like, he can't be a director for a company anymore. And once that person loses that QBCC license, he's not allowed to build or work on that building. So you, as a developer, need to find a new builder. So even though it's a very small compliance or administrative issue, it could cost in the project coming to standstill.
Yeah. No one wants that.
So as we said, so us as developers, we just need to ensure that are they aware of it? Have they done this before? Have they got a proper checklist in place? Are their bookkeepers, accountants, whoever is touching it is certified? Are they telling their subcontractors everything they need to say, like communication, which we saw? Are the progress claims process is all in place correctly? Because there are certain days that you need to respond. Just like when the head contractor provides us a progress claim, we have an obligation to respond in 10 days or 15 days. There are some days limitations. So are they following the best practices? Simply put,
Yeah.
Are they following these best practices?
So the advice is around making sure that you're familiar and you're across what this legislation requires you. And then for ease, right? Create, like you said, the checklist. Create a
Yeah,
checklist and those systems and processes to ensure that everyone, no matter who it is, new person, not a new person, bookkeeper, that they're absolutely aware of what steps need to happen when you bring on a new project, because ignorance is not an excuse to not
absolutely.
implement this.
Correct. Absolutely.
Yeah,
That's it. Simple put. Fantastic line.
yeah, yeah,
Ignorance
yeah.
is not accepted anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. Now that's been, incredibly valuable information, and thank you so much for sharing that, Krish. I think particularly with what's happening at the moment. Obviously, it doesn't necessarily mean that we're not actually talking about how the project's actually managed or costs or anything, but this is more a level of safeguard to ensure that if for whatever reason, like the subcontractors, we know that the subcontractors need to be protected and paid if a project does, go south. Um, but it's not a guarantee. It's a safeguard,
Yeah.
right? And so the more that we can ensure from our sides as the developers that we're asking the right questions and protecting our projects, this is what's the important side.
Yeah. Yeah. And also, very good point, because to adding to that, if the subcontractors also are confident that the
Mm,
builder is doing the right thing and doing the trust accounts and everything right, I mean, giving the environment, it's very hard to find subbies now at the moment, anyways, isn't it? Like everyone's struggling.
yeah,
Even these
yeah,
subbies want to work for only those builders who've got the things in place. So
yeah,
us as developers, we have a bit of confidence as well, saying that okay, this guy's doing the right thing. He's got subbies working for him. The
mm,
project is not going to be delayed. A bit of
yeah.
assurance.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you, Krish, for putting that together and sharing your, sharing the expertise and your knowledge around it. Obviously, you're very passionate about it, which is good. And I'll be honest, I wasn't across trust, project trust accounts until we started this conversation. So it's really good that we're bringing it up at this particular time when there's bit of uncertainty around, how do we do our due diligence around builders, and how do we safeguard the project. So thank you so much, and I appreciate it. Anyone that needs to get in contact with you, we'll just share some details again. That's the website there, peakvalue.com.au. They are accountants and advisors. And Krish at peakvalue.com.au if you want to get a hand on that hard copy book, because that in itself is priceless. Right. Awesome.
Thank you, Cheryl. Thank you, everyone. And as Cheryl
Awesome,
said,
Krish. Have a good evening. And if you've enjoyed this episode of the Business of Property, make sure you visit and subscribe to our YouTube channel, The Business of Property, where you can find all our past episodes. And if you found value in today's show, please comment. And also, when you're watching the replay, hit the like buttons. You get notified when a new episode pops up. So until next time, take care, keep well, and we'll see you again. Bye bye.